Hello everyone and welcome to this week's YouTube Live. Welcome back if you've been here before. Can everyone hear me properly? Please let me know in the chat if you can hear me and if the sound is okay. Hello Cecilia, how are you today? I hope everyone's doing well despite the horrible weather, at least here in Paris. Great, so I'm glad you can all hear me. So, for those of you who are new here, we are Cercle des Langues. If you've not heard of us before, we are an English language school and we are 100% funded by CPF. You can find us on our website by typing Cercle des Langues onto Google or your preferred web browser. And you can also find us on Instagram by also typing in Cercle des Langues. So, welcome back again to our series, Brilliant Business English. In this series of 5, we are going to be going through the most useful business scenarios. And no matter your level, this series will help you to feel more comfortable with some key business vocabulary and phrases. So this is the 3rd episode of the series, and today we are going to learn how to manage a business lunch. You might find yourself having a business dinner or a business breakfast, so everything we talk about today will be relevant for these other types of meal. We're going to be dividing our live into 3 parts today. In part 1, we will explore some useful phrases and vocabulary related to meals and restaurants. In part 2, we are going to go through some real-life scenarios that could take place during a business meal. And in part 3, we will be having a short quiz to test your knowledge. So to help me act out the real-life scenarios, I am delighted to welcome a very special guest today. I have Galilea joining me from the pedagogy team, and I will let her introduce herself.
Hello. My name is Galilea. I'm 21 years old. I'm from Ecuador, but I've been living in France for almost 4 years now, and I work at the Cercle des Langues on the content team.
So thank you very much, Galilea. We will be hearing from Galilea a little bit later when we are going through the scenarios. So to start off with, we are going to look at some key vocabulary and phrases which will be useful if you are dealing with a meal or a restaurant. And to start with, we're going to have a look at vocabulary for the different items you will see on the table. So to start with, we have cutlery. So cutlery is the general name we use to give to the group of utensils that we eat our food with. So some examples of cutlery are a knife. A knife is the sharp item that you use to cut your food into smaller pieces. We also have a fork. This is the utensil that we use to maybe stab pieces of food that we want to pick up, or if we're being a bit more sophisticated, we might scrape our food onto the back of our fork. We also have a spoon. This is the round item that you use to scoop up food that's a bit more liquid. So maybe if you have a pasta with lots of sauce or a soup. And we have lots of different types of spoons. So we have a soup spoon, a teaspoon that you might use to stir your tea with. We also have a plate. So this is the flat dish that you will eat your meal off. And then a bowl is the more rounded dish. So it's got a rounded bottom. And again, this is for the more liquidy foods, like a soup. You would eat soup out of a bowl. We also have a napkin. So this will usually be folded perhaps on the table. And it's a piece of cloth or paper used to wipe your mouth and hands to keep yourself clean. And finally, we have a glass. So a glass is a vessel used to hold drinks. There are lots of different types of glasses for different types of drinks. So for instance, you might have a wine glass or even a beer glass, and it will change shape depending on the type of drink it is supposed to hold. So next, we're going to have a look at reading a menu. This is, of course, very important so that you can decide what you want to eat. When you look at a menu, yes, Pauline, chopsticks are sometimes, depending on the cuisine, of course, there are lots of different cutlery depending. So when you look at a menu, the food will usually be displayed according to the course. It will be divided into groups depending on the course. So the course is a stage of the meal. You might have a meal that is just one course, or you can have a meal that is many courses. So if you're having a meal which is many courses, the first course you'll have will be called the starter. Now, with a lot of these vocabulary items, there are different ways that different people say it. So I've got here 3 different ways of saying starter. Some people might say entree or appetizer. So this is the first course of the meal, and it will usually be the smallest course. So something quite light. Of course, you don't want to fill up before you move on to the main course. And the main course is the middle course. Of course, from the word main, you can tell it is the main event, and it is usually the largest course of the meal. Now, we also have sides, or some people call them accompaniments, and these are small dishes that are usually eaten alongside other courses. So they're not a course in themselves. You couldn't go to a restaurant and just have a side. It might be a bit strange, but you could have a side alongside your other course. So maybe that would be fries or a salad, something like that. Then we have dessert. This is my favorite part of the meal. I have a very sweet tooth. So a dessert is the sweet course that is traditionally eaten at the end of a meal. So maybe this will be like a cheesecake or something else. Do let me know in the comments if you have a favorite course or perhaps a favorite dessert. So another word that you might see on the menu are specials. So a special is an item that perhaps is particularly good or that the restaurant is particularly well known for. Or it also might be a dish that is only available on one day or for a very limited time. And another section of the menu will probably be drinks or beverages. Now, sometimes the drinks menu might come as a separate menu, or in some restaurants, it's all included on the same page. Next up, we have the wine list. So this is a more specific type of drinks menu that, of course, only shows all of the wine that is available. And when you are in a restaurant, there might be some different options for how you organize your meal and how many courses you have. So similarly to in French, we have the option to have à la carte, which is just where you choose your items from the menu. Or you could have a set menu. So this is a limited menu, which is offering a set number of courses at a set price. You might also see on the menu something listed as the something of the day. So it might be the fish of the day, or the dessert of the day, or the soup of the day. And this means that it's a dish that changes from day to day. And you might like to ask your server what this dish is by saying, what is the soup of the day? Or what is the dessert of the day? So now we are going to move on to invitations. So of course, if you are organizing a meal and you want to invite perhaps your clients or your colleagues who you are dining with, you need to let them know that they are invited. So some phrases you might like to use are, we'd like to invite you, or I'd like to invite you. You could say, I'd like to invite you for a meal on Thursday. You could also say, please join us for. This is a polite way of asking people to join you in a place, maybe in a restaurant. So you might say, please join us for a celebratory lunch on Friday. And then, of course, sometimes you might be the person receiving the invitation. And whether you're going to accept or decline an invitation, it's always polite to first thank the host for inviting you. So you can say this by saying, thank you for your kind invitation. And then, if you're able to attend, you could say, I'd be delighted to join you for lunch, for instance, on Wednesday. Or if you're sadly unable to make the lunch, you can say, unfortunately, I'm unable to attend. And this is a polite way of letting them know that you won't be able to make their invitation, but perhaps you'll be able to join them next time. So now, this is something that is often included perhaps on an invitation, because different restaurants might have different rules about what you can and can't wear while you're eating there. And these sets of rules are called a dress code. And it's important that you let your guests know that if there's a dress code, and also that you yourself follow a dress code if it's been included on any invitation you've received. So here are the most common dress codes you might see, particularly in the business context where you're expecting to appear as professional and you want to be impressing your colleagues or clients or whoever you are dining with. So first of all, we have smart. So this is quite a formal dress code. You will expect suits and to be really dressed up and looking polished for the occasion. Next, we have casual. So casual might be a bit misleading because if you're attending a business lunch, casual probably won't mean you can be wearing your tracksuits or a hoodie. You still need to look put together and professional. So in this case, casual would probably be something like jeans and fairly relaxed, but just not the sort of clothes you would hang around the house in. Then we have business casual. This is often a bit of a tricky one because it seems confusing to be both business and casual. But it's usually incorporating business wear, so perhaps a blazer, tailored items, a shirt with a more relaxed look. So you might be able to wear some smart trainers and you won't need to wear a tie or anything like that. Other restaurants might say no jeans or trainers. This is a simple way, of course, of telling you that you can't wear jeans or trainers, but it indicates that dress should not be too casual. And you should stick to suit shoes and smart tailored trousers or a dress or a skirt as you prefer. And finally, jackets required. So this is quite an old-fashioned dress code to say that everyone has to wear a jacket. Traditionally, this was referring to men needing to wear a jacket, but it does sort of indicate formal dress for everyone. So now we will have a look at making a reservation. Often you can't just turn up to a restaurant, especially if you're a big group. Perhaps you're entertaining multiple clients at the same time. Instead, you need to make a reservation in advance. So the term we use, as I've said, is reservation, but you can also say booking. So if you were phoning up a restaurant, you could say, I'd like to make a booking for Thursday. And then, depending on how many people you are inviting or how big your group is, you will say a table for and then the number of people. So in this case, a table for four, which sounds a bit confusing. Two words after the other that sound the same, but you might say a table for six, a table for two, and that is the way in which you'd let them know how many seats you're going to need at your table. And then, of course, you need to tell the restaurant what time you'd like to eat, so you can simply use at, the preposition at. So a table at 1:30, please, to let them know about the time. And then, of course, you need to let them know your name so that they can identify you when you arrive. So obviously, in my case, I would say the name is Cecilia. And then when I arrive at the restaurant on the day, I can say it's a table for Cecilia. So now we are going to have a look at some scenarios. So in scenario 1, Galilea is one of my clients. I've invited Galilea out for a meal and I am welcoming her to the table. So we're going to go. So Galilea, hello. It's great to see you again. I'm glad you made it. Was your journey all right?
It's great to see you too. Thank you for organizing this meal. And yes, it was pretty easy. Thank you.
Great. It's my pleasure. Have you been here before?
No, this is the first time.
I thought it might be nice with the view over London.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Shall we sit over by the window?
Yes, best seats in the house.
Do you eat seafood? If you like prawns, you will love their prawn risotto.
I do. That sounds delicious.
I'd recommend the cheesecake as well. Great, so thank you, Galilea, for that one. We will be coming back to you very soon. So now we will have a closer look at some of the expressions that were used in this conversation. So the phrase, "It's great to see you again." This is a pleasant way to greet someone, but you can only use it if you've actually met them before. So you're acknowledging that you're very happy that you're seeing them again. So then, as you saw, I said, "Have you been here before?" Now this is a way of making small talk. And I'm asking or if you use this phrase, you're asking your companion if they know the restaurant, if they've been there before, particularly, of course, if you're the person who chose it. Next, you can say, "It's a pleasure." So I said, "It's my pleasure," when Galilea thanked me for inviting her. And this can be said either by the host or by the guest to indicate that you're very happy to be there and express gratitude both for being invited or for the other person coming. So then I used the phrase, I thought it might be nice to have the view over London. So this is indicating that I was being thoughtful in my choice of the place or the activity that I invited my guests to based on what I thought they would like. And this is nice as a host to make your guests feel like obviously their needs have been taken into consideration. I also said, "Shall we?" So shall we is a polite way to invite your guest to do something with you. Of course, if we are interacting with clients and with colleagues, we want to be remaining as polite as possible. We don't want to sound too authoritative, like we're making orders. We'll just say, "Shall we?" to invite our guest to do something. So you could also ask, "Do you eat or do you like?" And this is a way to find out about the preferences of the person you are eating with. And then if you say, "If you like," whatever they said, so for instance, if you like prawns, you'll love the seafood risotto, you're making them a suggestion based on their preferences, which of course, again, shows that you're taking into consideration what they like. You can also use the phrase, "I'd recommend," to tell your dinner companion or lunch companion about a dish you think they might like. Of course, you don't want to be too forceful, and don't be upset if they don't follow your recommendation. Perhaps they just didn't want to eat it that day. So now we will move on to scenario 2. So in this context, I am a waitress in the restaurant and I have come to take Galilea's order. So, hello and welcome to Cercle des Langues restaurant. I will be looking after you today. Would you like to start with some drinks?
Sure, please. Could we have some still water and a bottle of champagne for the table?
Of course. And for food, how many courses will you be having today?
We're going for 3 courses today.
Of course. So what would you like to start?
I will start with the goat cheese salad and then I will have the steak, please.
Good choice. Would you like any sides with that?
Do you have fries?
Yes, we do.
Well, I have 2 portions of fries to share, thank you.
Sure. And I'll come back to take your dessert orders once you have finished your meal.
Thank you. And please, could we have another glass? My friend here is missing one.
Of course. I'll bring that now. And I'll bring a steak knife for you as well. Thank you very much for that again, Gali. See you a bit later. So again, we're going to have a look at some of the expressions that were used in that short conversation. So, please could I have, or please could we have, is a polite way to make a request. So, please could I have a glass of water? Please could I have a steak? Also, you might like to say, can we have something for the table? So this is something that's going to be shared by everyone at the table, and it's a nice way to sort of take care of everyone, particularly if you are the host. You want to make sure everyone has enough food and enough drinks. So you might order something on behalf of everyone, and say that it's for the table. Now, if you know that you're all going to be sharing one particular drink, you can order a bottle of something. So that might be a bottle of wine or a bottle of champagne. This means you get the whole bottle and then you can divide it up into glasses to share. So you saw Galilea order a portion or 2 portions even of fries. So a portion is a measure of food. Usually it would be enough for one person. So if you're ordering 2 portions, that will mean there's enough for everyone. And then if you're having multiple courses or you're going to order multiple things, you might like to introduce the first item you're going to order by saying, I'll start with. And this indicates you're going to order more afterwards. And then for any other things you're ordering, you can just simply say, I'll have. So I'll have the steak, I'll have the cheesecake. It's a simple way to order. And again, if you're not sure whether or not the restaurant has something or whether something's available that day, you might like to say, do you have? So perhaps Galilea just hadn't seen the side section of the menu. So you can ask, do you have fries? Or something like that. And I'm sure everyone will be very happy to accommodate you. So of course, once you've enjoyed your meal, it gets to the end and you need to pay. So the way the word we use to talk about the piece of paper that tells you how much everything costs is the bill, or in America, they call it the check. So you might like to say, please can we get the bill, or please can we get the check? That's an English versus American English, a British English versus American English, slight difference. So then you can also use the phrase on me. So if you say this one's on me, that means that you're the person who is going to pay. And similarly, let me get this is a way of offering to pay. Now, of course, perhaps you already know that your host is going to pay, but it's polite to indicate that you would be happy to pay and show that you haven't just assumed that they're going to pay. So you might like to say, are you sure? To indicate that you would be perfectly happy to pay as well, even if you know they're going to say, no, of course. So then finally, when it comes to leaving the table, again, using this shall we phrase that we saw earlier, a polite way of encouraging your guests to do something. So you can say, shall we get going? And get going means leave. It's a relaxed way to say it. Then you might also say, it's been a pleasure. And so this is said at the end of the meal. It's been a pleasure eating with you. It's been a pleasure seeing you. It can be used in all those contexts and is just to express gratitude and show that you've enjoyed the occasion. So then finally, of course, you want to express your gratitude. You can say, thank you, I've had a lovely time. And if you're the host, you will want to thank your guests for coming. So you can say, thank you for coming, I've had a lovely time. And sometimes there are situations where you need to leave the table before the end of the meal. Perhaps you need to go to the bathroom, or for any other reason you might need to leave the table. You can say, I'm just going to excuse myself, or excuse me, and stand up and leave the table. But it's polite to let everyone know that you're going to leave the table before you do so. Great. So next we are going to move on to the quiz. I hope you've all been listening. We are going to test your knowledge. So please go ahead and type the answers in the chat. To test your knowledge. So first things first, what is the group name for items such as spoons, forks, and knives? Please go ahead and write it in the chat. Yes, very nice, Sozik. Cutlery. Brilliant. So cutlery is the group term that we use for all of these items. Some people also call it silverware, depending on where you are, but cutlery is a very general term. So next, we're going to go, very well done, everyone. I'm very pleased you've all been listening so hard and got the answer correct. So cutlery is correct. So next up, we're going to have a look at some of the items found on the table. So you can write numbered What do we call each one of these items? Item number 1, item number 2, and item number 3. Do feel free just to write them in order. You don't need to number them or anything. I hope the first one is clear enough from the picture. These are all things I'm sure you're very used to seeing on the table. Brilliant. I'll just give everyone a few more seconds. This is a bit of a long answer, having to write lots of different things. Yes, perfect. So first up, we have a napkin. Then we have a glass. And in particular, this is a wine glass with that big shape over here. So a wine glass, but a glass is correct. And then finally, we have a knife. And I thought I would show this steak knife, of course, since Galilea ordered her steak earlier on. Brilliant. Now, for the next question, this is one I always find challenging. So first of all, we're going to talk about what phrase do you use if you want to suggest your guest a dish that they might like. Can you think, what would you say if you're going to suggest to your companion or guest a dish that they might like in not too forceful of a way? How would you let them know? And this is a nice way to create small talk. So of course, this is one that has lots of different answers. Of course, if you can remember the one that was great. So very nice, Christelle. You have got the right answer. This is a use situation. This is a phrase which has some technicalities around the use. So the one I was thinking of was I'd recommend. Now, if you want to say you recommend something, then you can just say I'd recommend for instance, I'd recommend the cheese. But if you want to say I'd recommend that you have something, then you need to put I'd recommend the cheese to you. We need that preposition to. So just I recommend the noun, the name of the food, or I'd recommend the chicken for you or to you. Great. So next up, this is the one I was talking about, which can be challenging, coming to dress codes. So I don't know if you've ever seen a dress code and not quite known what it should be, or what you should wear. So can anyone tell me which of these outfits would be considered business casual based on the descriptions that I gave earlier of each dress code? You can just type the number in the chat for which one is business casual. These are 3 quite different outfits, but which one is business casual? Which one is appropriate to wear to a business casual lunch? Exactly, perfect. Everyone is spot on, so I suppose you are not having any issues with dress codes then. You're doing very well. So number 3 is business casual. Excellent. As you can see, he's wearing a shirt, he's wearing a jacket, but he's not wearing a tie or anything, and he doesn't look overly formal. Whereas you can see number 1, that is a very formal outfit, perhaps more of an evening outfit, and number 2 is just tracksuits and is too casual. So finally, what do we call the piece of paper that shows the amount of money that is owed for the meal? I'm not sure, Pauline, if it's Patrick Dempsey. I don't think so. I think maybe it's just a look-alike. So can anyone tell me the piece of paper that shows the amount of money? Brilliant. Everyone, you were doing so well today. Got every answer completely correct. So yes, it is the bill or the check. Wonderful. So that pretty much brings us to the end of our YouTube Live for this week. Remember, We are here every week at 7 p.m. So do tell your family or your friends, anyone else you know that's interested in learning English. Next week, we will be continuing with our business series. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with all our upcoming videos and content. So thank you so much, Galilea, for coming. It was absolutely lovely to see you, and your help was absolutely invaluable to present these business lunch scenarios.
Well, no, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Great. So thank you everyone for coming, and see you next time. Bye bye.